And we're live. I'm Justin, the Lunatic Libertarian. I'm here with my brother from another mother, Kaelan Dreyer, who is running for the Bernalillo County Sheriff, and he is the man that's going to take down the establishment down in New Mexico. How you doing, brother?
Good.
So, what brought you to the Libertarian Party, and what got you excited about running for county sheriff down there?
There was the Libertarian Party. I think I just always had an interest in other parties just because I never felt I always felt like the Democrats and Republicans are just full of crap. And I remember like Gary Johnson run a few years ago, and I was like, this guy's. I like a lot of what this guy says. And I mean, and my dad, he went to UNM. He's from Illinois, and he went to college here when Gary was governor, and he was telling me like back in 2012, he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember he tried to legalize marijuana, and everyone got all mad at him, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever." Some adolescent. So, and as far as Bernalillo County Sheriff, I'm running because I think. If I don't know if you know this, but police in New Mexico are the deadliest in the country. I mean, we are number one in shootings from police officers. So, and I felt like everyone's when people are running for sheriff, it's usually these authoritarian candidates, very heavily involved. Like already involved in the system, and I'm like. Someone needs to run that isn't a part of this and can address the issues with policing locally. So that's why I'm running, basically to just show that there's a lot, there's people like me who are just sick of the violent policing here in Albuquerque and New Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, according to the federales right now here in the United States, the issue on the southern border seems to be this big, radical, huge issue that everybody wants to run on. Now, I am not a geographer. I'm not familiar with the geography of New Mexico as far as the southern border. Is that something that affects your portion of the country?
Well, New Mexico is a border state, but Albuquerque's like 5 hours away from the
Okay, well,
border.
I mean, well, there certainly is an influx of legal and illegal immigrants into the country every single day. I'm sure that some of that flows through New Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now, I was looking up some of the crime statistics up there, and it's like you have a very bad rating as far as violent crime, like D's and F's and stuff like that. And it seems like there's a very high rate of violent crime in your area. Do you think that is something that is because of the violent policing or public policies that are in New Mexico?
Probably some of both. I mean, like New Mexico is pretty poor, and basically, policing's used to control impoverished people throughout history. So, and I mean, like and you're talking about the whole immigration thing. Actually, I'd say this is just my perspective, but I think the border patrol is more scary than your average immigrant that just comes through. Because I mean, I don't know if you know, but on the border, within 100 miles of a border, the patrol can suspend anyone's constitutional rights, which is just they have no accountability really. So,
Well, I mean, I'm not that out of that. So you're telling me that the Border Patrol, or does that even include any local law enforcement that's working on, a coalition or a joint task force, can take away anybody's constitutional rights just because you're within the proximity of the Mexico-United States border.
It's basically, yeah. And I mean, it's also the same thing on like the Canadian border, but no one cares about that because, to be honest,
Nobody's trying to flee into Canada, right?
or who's coming from Canada, you know?
Well, I mean, Kaelan, so what do you think people would say when they look at your qualifications and saying that you are not an establishment law enforcement official? Do you have any formal law enforcement training, either in a education setting or in, trying to establish a career in, public office as far as like an officer?
No. And I mean, basically, the whole point of my campaign is we need, really, I mean, I feel like law enforcement offices are kind of out of touch with civilians here. And, if you get a civilian like me in power, it might change things. I'm a farmer, so it's really what I'm not. I don't have any involvement with law enforcement, but I feel concerned because it's a branch of government that affects people locally, and they're usually notorious for violating rights, and sometimes they're not held accountable.
So you consider yourself more of a foundation in activism than in law enforcement, then, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I've read some stuff on you when I was researching your campaign that you had a slight incident with one of your competitors at a previous.
He's not running again. He's term limited.
Right. So he was the incumbent sheriff, and
he was trying to run for mayor. And
well, once you get into the government grease, then you want to stay there. But yeah, you had a drone incident where there was a sex toy attached to it while he was giving a public speech. Why don't you let me know about that incident and what went on with that?
So give me a little while, but sit back and relax, pop a beer, popcorn, or something. So basically, last year, Manny Gonzalez, who's the current sheriff of Bernalillo County, and to give you a backstory, this guy is pretty corrupt, and I mean, he made a whole fuss about like not wanting his officers to use body cameras, and then the courts had to force him to do it. But basically, he decided to run for mayor, and a friend of mine, another one, they're like, we're gonna troll this guy. You want to come along? And I was like, okay, maybe I can ask him a question or something. Press him. But so basically, and they've made this. They attach. Actually, I have a surprise. That's it. Actually, they gave me that back when after I got arrested. But yeah, you're wondering what it is. It's actually just like one of those those like try-on socks, nylon socks.
Correct.
Like a store. Yeah, my friend like stuffed it up with paper and then just spray painted it and give it a face. But anyways, so basically I went to this event and I was like also at the same time I was like kind of like my two friends, they were like setting, the thing up. You could hear like the drone noise, and I was just like telling people like, "Oh yeah, that's just construction workers." To do that, and when they finally got it going, well, basically by then, I think you could tell the like sheriff Manny Gonzalez that he was just ticked off because there was another activist that asked him a question, and they protested there. So I was like, "Oh well, I don't know." But then, like that old drone came up, and then basically, like everyone was like, "What is that?" It was like laughing, like, and then like one of his security guards grabbed it out of the air, and then I just ran to get it because I was gonna leave, and I was gonna leave with it, bring it back to my friend, and then his security guards just tackled me, and it's funny, they tackled me towards him. So and then like I was just like in the like whoa, and then like my hand landed on his like hand, and then like they basically made me go out, which I was leaving anyways. And then last second, they decided to arrest me because they thought I was connected to his opponent, who's the current mayor of Albuquerque, Tim Keller. Like, and then basically the whole news got all crazy. Like, man punches Manny Gonzalez, and it's like. And it was funny the day after it came, like when the footage came out, everyone's like, "What?" Everyone was like laughing just because of the whole drone thing. Like, really?
So did anything really come of that legally for you?
Well, I spent the night in jail. Yeah, I got some street cred now. I'm basically a folk hero. And you know what's funny is when it came up in court, the guy didn't show up to his case because he was too busy trying to scam like for public financing for his campaign.
Okay.
And, you know, this whole incident kind of made me just, you know, earlier this year, like I actually ran for soil and water board, a local soil and water board last year, and I actually almost won, and I got like the fourth most votes of any libertarian affiliated candidate in the state, not including Gary Johnson's runs, but like I got like 40,000 votes for this, and like the party was like, "Do you want to run for something this year?" I was like, I saw sheriff was up, and I was like, you know, I got famous off of confronting a sheriff, and I'm concerned about law enforcement. Maybe I should do this. And then they're like, yes, go for it. So that's kind of what you.
That's awesome. So do you think that you would have any problems handling the responsibility of a county sheriff? I mean, you do have to, you know, uphold law and, you know, make sure that we don't have any problems with, or try and minimize the problems with the streets, you know, and human interactions that typically end up violent. So, I mean, where are you at as far as non-violent offenses? Where are you at as far as the enforcement of the laws that you currently have on the books in Albuquerque, or I'm sorry, New Mexico?
Well, I think we should just stop enforcement of victimless crimes. And I mean, I'm generally pretty critical of law enforcement, but I do realize that they have a basic thing, just general public safety. And I think if we stopped the enforcement of victimless crimes, they could deal with more serious issues like solving murders or getting rape kits tested through it. And I mean, a point I've been making is like I think what we should do with drug abuse. I mean, people are concerned about fentanyl, which that's the new boogie drug. I'm like, we should. I don't know. I don't know if you know what Portugal did like 2 decades ago, but they decriminalized all drugs and just decided instead of having this as a legal issue, we treat it as a medical issue. And
Okay.
I think that's the way we should address drug abuse, just because it's in the war on drugs has not accomplished anything in terms of fighting drugs. It's just created more of a police state. And that's literally the whole purpose was like Nixon was trying to go have a way to go after black people after Jim Crow ended. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the sheriff does have a very prominent role in what he has to do as far as defending the public safety. So, do you think that people would gravitate towards a young candidate that's not going to be a part of the establishment, but has good policies to enter that office? And do you feel that you would have a sense of confidence to do you got to do news broadcasts and you have to do um, uh, uh, news briefings and stuff like that, and then speak to hundreds of people all at once? Do you think that you have the public speaking ability? Do you think that you have the knowledge base that's needed to actually fulfill the role of sheriff?
I mean, let me put this out. I'd be an unconventional sheriff just because I'm not hungry for power. And I mean, in terms of people looking at me, I think actually what I am is basically people there's I'm part of this whole sediment that people that politicians really haven't tapped into except maybe pandering here and there of how out of control the current system of law enforcement is. And I mean there's a massive distrust in law enforcement for, like, here. And I think if I were put in power I could change that,
Yeah, I don't
basically.
think that a lot of people feel safe around public servants like what we're supposed to believe. I think that being
Right.
around police officers creates more anxiety
Well,
and
yeah.
insecurity than any kind of security that we're supposed to feel
I
because of
mean,
their presence.
we rely on the police for too many issues. I mean, they're just treated as like, oh, we're gonna like to solve everything. I even put out, everyone's paranoid about murder, and it's like, do you really think the police can solve that solely? I mean, really, I think it's up to communities to solve issues like that rather than out of touch bureaucratic politicians who don't even live in those communities.
Well, I think that the sheriff has a pretty prominent role in the community because they are the face of law and order, just so as the chief of police and
Hmm.
any figurehead. You know what I mean? So, where do you feel that, because I'm sure there's a very diverse demographic of age groups, ethnicities, and backgrounds, just like anywhere else in the United States. Do you think that people really can get behind someone as young as you are? And think that they would still have security, or do you think that people right now have so much distrust with law enforcement as a general principle that you can bring that trust back by bringing the real reason that law enforcement is in place is just to protect people's from violent offenders instead of enforcing traffic violations or jaywalking or something like that?
Probably the latter one. I mean, I don't know how big the sediment is to win an election at this point, but it's growing. And then, I think the reason why you're seeing like a bunch of paranoia about like crime rising, it actually, you look at the statistics, most crime is actually down with the exception of homicide. But I think the reason for that is because these police unions don't want to give up their power, and they know that people, especially after incidents like George Floyd, that they're becoming more skeptical of how policing is here in the U.S. And I mean, really, it's. I'm running against this mass machine of police propaganda. I mean, both of my opponents are for that, And I think what I am doing here is offering voters a different voice. I mean, that's really what libertarian candidates do best is we offer people who are dissatisfied with the current system, just something different. And, if we get a good showing at an election or even win in rare cases, it can frighten the people in charge. They'll realize, like, oh no, these people really they're desperate for change. So I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are in skeptical of the systems that are built upon each other, because law enforcement, it has now become, instead of peace officers, they're becoming policy enforcers,
Well, yeah,
and then
basically.
the
Sorry.
court systems and everything else are all built to actually profit off of these systems. And as you
Definitely.
brought up with police unions and stuff like that, people don't want to give up their political power either. Do you think that being a young and activist sheriff, to expose how these systems actually operate, would be a huge win for public policy? I think it would be.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do.
Now, is there any way that we can get a hold of you? Where can we promote your campaign? I have your Facebook page. Is there any
Yeah,
other campaign page that we can
that's
use?
pretty much my main campaign page, and I've just been doing like guerrilla campaigning here in Albuquerque, and just been talking to people and hanging up, flyers and all that, because I've been to like some rallies, talk to people who are just tired of the police violence here. I mean, heck, here a few months ago, back in July, the APD, their SWAT team raided a house and burnt it down with a 10-year-old sorry, no, 14. I keep hearing different things. And he died. And it just shows how ridiculous and out of control, law enforcement it can be here. And this kid wasn't even involved in the crime. The person they were going after.
Well, usually there's always going to be collateral damage
Yeah,
when you have the drug war that's been going on forever, when you have, crime that's been going on forever, and humanity, and that no longer is the priority. It's
yeah.
either the profits or the property. Human beings always take second to that. And it's not, according to what I read, it's not the police business to actually try and save your life. It is your
Well,
own.
yeah, the Supreme Court ruled it a few years ago that like they're not obligated to serve and protect you.
Well, it's kind of like an oxymoron of their saying. But Caleb, let the people know where they can find you, where they can vote for you, and when to vote.
Well, I mean, if you live in Bernalillo County, which has Albuquerque in it, the election's Tuesday. So, and I hope if you have friends in Albuquerque, feel free to share my campaign to them. And yeah, and you find me on my Facebook. I have a Facebook page. Message me. I respond to that. I have a donation box, but actually, instead, I've had someone, you offer to buy me flyers, so I don't know if I really need it as much. It's too late to probably print anything significant like a sign or something. But yeah, I just say get the word out. It would be
The grassroots campaign, come up from the
definitely
bottom.
yes.
Well, I hope you have people out there
Grassroots
that's going to
from a
help you knock.
farmer.
Yep, hit them knocking on doors and Get those flyers out to as many neighborhoods as possible in the county. And I hope you have a good turnout for your vote. I know
Yes,
that.
I hope. I don't know. I was a third party candidate in a very blue district. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to win, but I mean, if we can get a good percentage that voted for me, I think it can send a strong message to the law enforcement establishment that people are getting tired of this current system. And I mean, heck, I hope people push for change even after this campaign's over.
Well, everybody get out there and vote Tuesday, November 8th. Get out there, vote for my main man, Kaelan Dreyer. Get out there, vote for your local affiliates, vote for everybody that's local. And get off of the duopoly system. Get off of these people that
For
have been
Karen
using.
Badoni. Sorry.
What'd you say?
I mentioned Karen Badoni. She's a narcissistic mega woman that stole our libertarian nomination, and there's literally nothing libertarian about her. Yeah, I know. I'm getting more into internal things, but yeah.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay out of
Yeah,
all the
I know.
nonsense. I'm going to stay positive and
That's
get out
because
there.
I'm mainly focused on my campaign right now, so I'll focus on that crap afterwards. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that people get out there and vote, and they vote for you, Kaylin. And I hope that you can make a difference down there in New Mexico
Thank you.
and the
Bernalillo. I know it's
Bernalillo County Sheriff. I'm Justin, the Lunatic Libertarian. Go out there, vote for Kaylin. Get out there, vote locally, November 8th, and stay free. And we
Thank you.
are out.